So hello everyone, good evening. So uh, let's start our C# lesson. So now we are in the third week of this series. So far we learned uh, what is a programming language, and we learn about C#. So we identified programming language as a tool to communicate with the computer, right? It's like as humans, we use language to communicate. Programming languages are is like the same, right? So we using programming language, we communicate with computers, right? So what do we mean by communicating with computers, right? That means as humans, we give some instructions to the computer, and the computer will process it and give us the desired output, right? Right. So we call those instruction sets as a computer program. So using a programming language, we create those computer programs, right? So then we identified C# as a statically typed, object-oriented programming language that runs on .NET framework. So then we identified a framework as a toolkit to develop applications, because we are not reinventing the wheel. That means we are not building things from the scratch. We use uh, frameworks, libraries to build applications. Right. Then .NET framework has ASP.NET for developing web applications, then web Windows Forms for developing Windows applications, likewise, right? Uh, then we identified C# as a statically typed language. That means when we are defining variables, we have to explicitly mention the data type, right? Right. Uh, and we talk about data types. Then we uh, learn about the fundamentals of every programming language, that variables, data structures, how to create a conditional statement, and how to create a loop, and how to create functions, right? Then we move on to the object-oriented principle, right? Object-oriented was a programming paradigm, that is an imperative programming paradigm. Like there were two programming paradigms, imperative and declarative. In imperative programming, we tell the computer how to do things, right? Like uh, as an example, if you want to get the uh, summation of two numbers, we tell the computer first to initialize one variable and assign some value, then she initialize the second variable, then assign a value. Then we use the plus operator. We tell the computer a variable 1, let's say number 1 plus number 2 is the answer, then give me the answer. Right? That's how we do in imperative programming. Right? In declarative programming, we tell the computer what we want. Rather than telling how to do it, we tell um, what we want. Like in SQL, right? In SQL, we tell if we want to get something from a table, we tell select user from users table. So we don't tell how to get it, we tell what we want. Select username from user table. Likewise. So there were two programming paradigm, mainly two programming paradigms, imperative and declarative, and they're object-oriented programming, right? Object-oriented programming is a imperative programming paradigm. In object-oriented programming, we think everything as real-world objects, right? We had classes and objects. Classes we identified as uh, blueprints of real-world entities, right? So classes had two things, but methods and attributes, right? So using that class or the blueprint, we create objects, right? As an example, I took the a toy shop example, right? In a toy shop, there is an owner, there's customers, and there is items. So the owner will be an one entity, the client will be an one entity, and the items will be an one entity. So likewise, we build the program, that's object-oriented program, right? So today we will move into creating like we learned to create some console applications last week. Now we try to create a web application using ASP.NET. So first tell me, what is a web application? Like we know there are many applications like desktop applications, mobile applications, web applications, likewise. So tell me, what is a web application? Okay, so think like this. So I'm doing this presentation using Microsoft PowerPoint, right? So to use PowerPoint, what I should do? First, I need to install PowerPoint in my computer, right? First, I need to install PowerPoint in my computer. Then I can use that software to create presentations, right? Those kind of software are called like standalone applications. Like they can once uh, to use them, but I need to install them in the computer, right? Now think about Facebook, right? When I'm browsing Facebook with my laptop, do I need to install Facebook in my computer? No, right? So if I want to browse Facebook, uh, I will open my browser and type the URL as www.facebook.com, and um, then I can go to that website, right? So those kind of applications are called web applications. Those applications are running on our browser and they are hosted in somewhere else in a server computer. So using our browser, we make HTTP requests to that server, and they process that request and give us the uh, response, right? So in a web application, you can understand there is uh, a client server relationship, right? So as client, so using our browser, we browse to that, we access that remote server, right? So in that case, we are clients, and server, he's serving us the content. That's why we call him as server, right? So in a web application, there is client server architecture. Right? The server response is uh, coming as HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Right? Using ASP.NET, we can create web applications. So let's try to create a simple hello world application using ASP.NET. So I will start Visual Studio. Then I'm going to create a new project. So I want to create a web application. I will search here web. I need to create a ASP.NET web application using C# language. Right. Next, so I will name my project as let's say hello world, and I want to create it in this directory, and let's create. I want to create a web forms app. So the project got created. So initially, this is what we get. First, let's run these. Right. So this is the uh, uh, initial template we get with the ASP.NET Web Forms applications. Right. So let's try to create a new web page. Right. Here, go to your project and right click and select a web form. Right. We will name it as hello world. Hello world web form got created. Right. Right. Now I want you to understand this. Shamla, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
So when we develop applications, we follow different architectures, right? So what do we mean by an architecture, right? Architecture is like a plan, right? So when we are developing, uh, when we are building a house, first we develop a plan, right? So based on the plan, we develop the house. We build the house. The applications are the same, right? So there are mainly two type of architectures to develop web application. First one we call the monolithic architecture, right? Right. In a web applications, there is mainly two parts: uh, user interfaces and the logical part. Business we call business logic or the logical part. User interfaces are what the user can see, right? We create the user interfaces using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. HTML is for what? HTML, using HTML, we create the web pages, we define the web pages, the structure, right? Then we use CSS to style that structure. And using JavaScript, we can give the interaction, like we can give some interaction to the application, right? And we have the backend logic. Let's imagine let's imagine a login system, right? So uh, first we need to design the web page, right? We need to create an input field. Uh, we need to create an input field, then the password field and the submit button, right? Then we can style them using CSS, right? Then when the user click that login button, we need to have a backend logic, right? To get the user input value, and we should get the data stored in the database for that particular user, and then check whether the username is equal to the username in the database and the password is equal to the password in the database. If both are matched, we will redirect him to the particular dashboard or something, right? So uh, we can see there is two things, like user interfaces, the UI logic, and the backend logic. Or in monolithic architecture, we the application is consist of the single application is consist of the UI logic and the business logic and the logic to connect with the database as well, right? So And there is a method, there is another architecture. It follows the concept of uh, what we call the separation of concerns, right? That means we can clearly see there is two things like user interfaces, we call them front end, and the back end logic, right? So there is another architecture, we separate them into two, right? Front end and back end, right? First, we learn about this monolithic architecture, right? ASP.NET applications follow this monolithic architecture, right? So in the same application, we write the UI logic and the business logic and the database logic as well, right? In a same application. So now I have created a web form as hello world, hello world. So there is a hello world.aspx file, right? Then this hello world.aspx file is the UI logic, right? UI logic. Then this hello world.aspx file is the backend logic. So we use C sharp here. We use C sharp here to write the backend logic, and here we use HTML and CSS to create the uh, the user interfaces, right? So now I want to simply show hello world, right? So here actually I can type HTML, right? Here I want to, let's say I want to write an H6, and let's say hello world, right? Um, Now now let's run this. Hello world is printed here, right? HTML H6. Like if I want to style this, I can use style here. Now I want the text to get center, so I make body. I want to display everything in a line, so display flex. I want to align center, then justify center, and uh, let's say minimum height as say 100 view height. Okay, right? You know, right? HTML, CSS, you know, right? Then I will give a class name to this H6 class. Right? You can see the text got aligned to center, and it got filled. .aspx file is the UI logic. Here we use HTML, CSS to create the user interface. Then that means the web page, and we can write the backend logic in the in the code behind file, we call this as the code behind file. We use C# as our programming language, right? Right. That's the very basic idea of uh, waveforms applications. Now let's move on to creating something complex, right? A real world application. So I want to create a, let me uh, stop this and close, right? And I will share it, right? So uh, now let's try to build something advanced, a real world application. Let's try to build a let's say employee management system. Let's try to create an employee management system, right? So, right. Um, so these are the user stories of the application. So in our application, there is mainly two users, admin and employee, right? So as an admin, I want to add new employees so that I can manage the workers. So as an admin, I want to add new employees. And as an admin, I want to view and edit employee details. And as an admin, I want to approve or reject leave requests. And then finally, I want to generate reports, right? Then the other user is of the system is employee. So as an employee, he should be able to log into the system, and he should be able to update his personal details, and he should be able to apply for leaves, and he should be able to check leave status and the let's say his payment history, right? So mainly there is two users, admin and the employee, right? So from these user stories, we create what? The requirement specification, right? So these are the functional requirements. So at the end of this module, I want you to create this application, right? So these are the functional requirements. User management. First thing is user management. User login interface, and based on their role, they will be redirected to uh, the separate dashboards, employee dashboard and the admin dashboard. There is two user roles, admin and employee, and users should be able to update their personal details, like let's say example, contact information. Then admin should be able to add employees and view employees and edit employee details and delete employees. And the employee should be able to apply for leaves and check their leave status and uh, check whether the leave got approved or rejected, right? Then finally, you can generate some reports, employee report, leave report, likewise, using, let's say, crystal reports, right? Uh, then these are the non-functional requirements, security. Uh, uh, Users should only be able to log into the system if they provide valid credentials and authorization. The password and the username must store in the database uh, after encrypting them, password encryption, and you should design user-friendly interfaces, and uh, they should be responsive. That means the uh, I should be able to view application using a mobile application or mobile phone or a desktop, and you should keep code quality, right? You should follow code quality, right? Uh, so this is how the system should look like. Admin should be able to add new employees, right? Right. Then they should be able to edit the details, and the employee should be able to log into the system, right? Kamla, can you see the presentation?
Yes, sir.
In our system, we have mainly two users, admin and the employee, right? And they both will be derived from a class we call the user, right? And uh, according to the requirement specification, this will be our class diagram. In a class, we have two things, attributes and methods, and a user will have a user ID, username, password, user role, and he will have two methods, login and update details. And the employee will be derived from the user class, and the admin also derived from the user class. So apart from these attributes, employee will have a department, contact, nationality, and qualifications, and the employee should be able to apply leaves, check leaves, and view his payment details. And apart from logging and checking user details, updating details, we should be able to add employees, define view employees, edit employees, and create new employees. So I want to create a web application. Web. Right. I want to create a ASP.NET web application using C# programming language, C# language. Next. Okay. Yeah. Let's name it as employee management system. Okay. I will make it in this location. Wait. Now I will use an empty template. Wait. Right. The project got created. Right. First thing was I need to create a login form. So both admin and employee will use a same login interface, right? So let's create a new uh, uh, web form for that. Right, this will be the login page. Let's name it as login log, right? Right. And the login page got created. Right. Ramla, you are seeing my code editor, right?
Yeah, sir.
Yes. Okay. Right. So, uh, yeah. Uh, Now I will create let's say h2 here slash login. Okay. Then uh, let's say I want to create the div, and I want to create a label. Let's say user name, then going to create a div, and another say as label as um password, right? Right. Right. When creating web forms, we can actually use this toolbox, and rather than typing the HTML content, um, we can drag and drop items as well. Let's say I want a text box to get the user um, name, user input for the username. I can tag this and it here, right? So here this ASP extension define that this is a server-side component. Uh, change the ID as um, text user user name, and you can see it is running at server. So this server, the attribute run at server define that this is a server-side uh, controller. So this will be handled by the ASP.NET at the server, right? Then I want to add another text box here. Let's name it as text password, right? And I can give an attribute as text mode. Uh, text mode. It will be password, right? So if the text mode is password, that means it will not show the what user is type, right? So let's run this. Let's add some styling to this. Let's it as login. Some style. Yes. Uh, first I will give some styling to the body. I want to align content to the center. So I will make display flex, align items center, justify content. center. So that will make the div horizontally and vertically center. And I want to get this body to get the wing height of 100 view height. So I want to get the view height. So right, everything good, centered. Let's give a background color as well. Background color. Uh, let's make it light, light, right. And I will give this class name as is give login container. So you can see when I'm giving the names, I'm using camel case naming convention, right? So those are the naming conventions. Let's make the background color as white. Then then we will give a border. So now what I want to do is here I want to create a submit button, and when I click that submit button based on the user role, I want the user to get redirect to his or her dashboard, right? Here I will stop this application, and here I want to create a new class. Add new item. I want to create a class, 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 C# class file. Right. I will name it as user, right? Okay, right. The user class got created, and each class have attributes, and methods. So from the requirement specification, we create the class diagram. So according to the class diagram, we identified the attributes that user has, right? User has a user ID. Let's name. So will be an integer user ID. So ID. Then he has a username, name, and user password name and user password and user header, user role, right? Right. So this will be a string. This will be a string. This will be a string, right? And last week we discussed about the encapsulation. So by default, these variables have the private access modifier. So I won't be able to access them using uh, if it is private. So we will make it public, public, and I will use the getters and setters. Get and set, right? Then the other classes as well. Item class, let's name it as admin. Right? And another class let's name it as employee, right? Right. So these two are inheriting from the user class. So that means user is the parent class, and employee will also have a ID, name, password, and a role. Apart from that, employee will have employee will have according to our past diagram, employee will have a depart. Apart from that, employee will have a department, department, okay, and uh, we will have a contact number. And we will have, say, Okay. So now what I want to do is, I want uh, here I want to add a button. Button. Okay. Let's make the press button. Okay. Connect server. Right. So, let's run this. We have a button. So let's make it as change the text as submit. uh, right. Submit button. Submit button. And so when the user click on the submit button, he should be the read. If he's a valid user, he should be redirected to the appropriate the if he's redirected to the his dashboard, right? So so admin should be redirected to admin dashboard, and the employee should be redirected to employee dashboard. Right. When I click this button, I want to call a function called ptn log login clicked. Login clicked. Right. So then I will go to the code behind file. Login code behind file, and here create a new function or method will be public, and will return nothing. Void click. Then let's say so now I want to get uh, the user input, like what, like here there's two text fields, username and password. So right, now what I want to do is I have a user, right? I have a user. Uh, right. User will have a user ID, username, user password, and user role. So, so in actual scenario, what should happen? Like a user, there in actual scenario, what's happening in the real system? The users are stored in the database. So they will have a user ID, username, user password, and a user role. And when I click this button, I need to take I need to take the username and the password, and I need to check whether there is a user with this username And so I am using a query as select user from, let's say, user table, from user table where username is equal to this, right? If there is a user, I need to check his password. So if there is a user, I want to check uh, is the password is matching, right? So if the user entered password and the password in the database is matching, I need to redirect him to the let's say if it's admin dashboard, if it's a employee, to the employee dashboard, right? So before learning about before learning about the database connection part, simply I will do this. I will create I will create a list, right? And I will create a list and create two employees, right? Right. When creating this, uh, creating an object from this class, I want to give the uh, the values for this uh, attributes, right? So to do that, we use the constructor, right? So constructor is a special uh, function that will uh, that gets called the uh, when we instantiate an object from that class, right? So public uh, void, so constructor will return nothing, and the constructor should have the name of the class, right? So user. So I want the constructor to pass three uh, these values: user ID, username, user password, and user role. Okay, so this will be an integer, this will be a string, so string. So this user ID is, I need to set it as the parameter I pass. Right. So I will create, now I will create two objects. So when I'm creating a test admin, now I want to pass user ID, name as a password, and user role. So I have created two users in a list. So uh, so we learn list as a data structure where we can uh, uh, store values in contiguous memory locations, right? And rather than using array, here I use a list because uh, array has a fixed length list. So now I can use a loop to iterate through this list, right? So what I want to do is when user enter username and password, I want to iterate through this list and check whether is there a user with the with the user entered username and password. If there is user entered username, if there is a user as such, I want to check the password is correct. If that's correct, I want to redirect him to the to his page. Like if he's admin, he want to I want to redirect him to the admin dashboard, and if it's employee, I want to redirect him to the employee page. So here, I will create another function as I want to pass the user entered username and password. User name and string user password, and I will use a loop here, right? For loop. For each user, so for um for each variable for user in this list, users list for each I want to check conditional statements. If user will have what? So will have user ID and a username. If each user, that means each object in the list, in that object's user ID, user name is equal to user name I pass, and and return the I will return the user, right? This user I will return user. I am iterating through this list and check whether there is a user with this username and password. If there is such a user, I'm returning that user, and else I will return none. So the return type will be the user, right? Now, when I click a button, I want to uh, get a check whether the user is authenticated or not. I create a variable called authenticated user. That will be a user. So the value will be the returning value of this function. So to this function, I have to pass username and the password. So I will pass the user entered username and password. Username and password, right? Hope you got it. Right. So now I want to check if this user is null or not. It it mean if if the value is null, that means the user entered username and password is either user entered username or the password is incorrect, or there is no such user in the database. So else, if there is a user, that means user has entered the valid username and password. So I need to redirect him to the appropriate page based on the user role. So I can write a conditional statement. If authenticated user is not null, that means a valid user, right? So null, not null, then otherwise I have to I will console log invalid user name or password, right? If there is a user, I want to check if authenticated user dot, he will have a user role. Is it equal to admin admin? I want to redirect him to the admin page. So response dot redirect to let's say admin admin dashboard dot aspx. Right. Otherwise, that means he's an employee because there is only two user roles. We should redirect to employee dashboard, right? Okay. Right. So now I want to create these two pages. I will stop this and here right click, add new waveform. I make this admin dash dashboard, right? Another dashboard, another space file I want. So I will create add new waveform employee dash dashboard, right? Okay. Right. So here I'm being Q and H1 employee good, right? Then while rather than like this, I will something like this. We'll create another view. And I will add the table, then we make it error right, yes, error label. Initially text is empty. Right. So this should be show here. So I will give this class I will give a class name flavor Right. Right. Let's save this and run the application. No, it is the bug. Warning assignment made to the same variable employee user.cs user.cs. Error. There is no argument given that correspond to the required formal parameter user ID of user employee.cs. Okay, employee.cs. Right. I will skip this for now. Now let's run. Okay. So the problem was okay. I want to create go to login. Right. Right. The problem there was here I defined employee as a derived class from the user. In the then the user class had an the constructor, so I have to pass parameters for that. When if it is a derived class, I have to pass parameters. Therefore, for this case, I have removed it. I removed the derived part. So that was the solution. Right. Okay. Yeah. The my web page got loaded. So here I will add the correct value. CK. As admin, I got redirected to the admin dashboard. Right. I am adding a wrong value. I get the message as invalid username or password. Right. So the next step will be to connect with our develop the database, right? Database and uh, the to connect this app with the database. So um, so for this, we have created the list with test admin and a test employee. So now I want to create the database, right? So to do that, I want you to we will use Microsoft SQL Server and SQL Server Management Studio as our database, right? So I want you to go to this website, SQL Server, right? And yes, SQL Server Management Studio. Stop. Right. Then go to SQL Server download. Then mm, go download this developer version, right? Right. Then go to SQL Server Management Studio and and download this one as well, right? Then I know I want you to install these two. You will get these two like this setup file and this setup file, right? Uh, then you can install these two. So after you install SQL Server, then you can install this software SQL Server Management Studio, um, right? Then uh, you can connect to that server, right? So we will start a new query and right, I'm writing create database as a with employee management system, right? Right. So I can see I have created a new database. As employee management system. So next week we are going to create this database, and next week we are going to create the tables and connect this with our application, right? So I want you to go to this website, solo learn, right? And yeah, you can log in with your Google account. So you will get a dashboard like this, and you can go to courses and go to this programming languages and go to this beginner, and uh, you can do these two courses: introduction to C sharp and C sharp. So that's it for today. So shall we wind up there? Yeah. So thank you for joining. Uh, yeah, let's stop.